Welcome to the Christina Crooks Show, where you not only get to know the many versions of moi, but also the rich tapestry of humanity. I invite you to bring your full curiosity and listen as we journey through people's stories and expertise. I hope you walk away with insights and inspiration and new possibilities bubbling up inside of your soul. The reason it's called the Christina Crooks Show is because here's the thing. I don't always want to do the same thing. I like a variety in my life. I like to explore different rabbit holes and different people and different interests. So together in this podcast, that's exactly what we'll do. Have fun, and we'll see you soon. I have here today Gay Hendricks. Gay is a leader in transformation, relationships, and consciousness. He earned his PhD in psychology in 1974 from Stanford University and spent 21 years teaching in the counseling psychology department at the University of Colorado. He currently lives in Ojai, California, with his wife of 42 years, Katie Hendricks. Together, they've written nearly 40 books and own and operate their own international learning center, known as the Hendricks Institute. Here, they teach core skills for conscious living and conscious living. For more than 40 years, their work has been to assist people in opening to more creativity, love, and vitality through the power of conscious relationship and whole person learning. Gay and Katie's work was rocket launched into the public eye after their book, Conscious Loving, was introduced by Oprah and they were interviewed on the show. You can see snippets of their love affair with life and each other on Instagram, which is a great way to inject a little extra joy into your day. In 2011, he partnered with writer Tinker Lindsay to begin the Tenzing Norbu Series with titles such as The First Rule of 10 and The Second Rule of 10. They illustrate emotional and spiritual challenges in the life of a fictional ex-mark private detective. Welcome to the show, Gay. So glad to have you here.
Thank you, Christina. I appreciate it. And I appreciate also you mentioning my mystery novels. A lot of people don't know that about me, that in my spare time, I write mystery novels, but it's a big, fun area of my life.
I love that piece because it reminds us that just because you're on one track in life doesn't mean you can't have other interests. And I went through before our call today on your Instagram and was seeing all these snippets, and many of them I've seen before, but I was reminded of your mystery novels. And so my first question with that is, do you write them under a pseudonym or are they under your name?
No, they're under my name. A screenwriter friend of mine, Tinker Lindsay, she and I write them together. I write the first draft and then she comes in and flavors it up. And then I write another draft and she flavors it up. So we've been doing that now. I think we have about 9 or 10 of them out there. And I've actually got 5 more mystery novels in the pipeline that I'm working on this summer. So I'm immersed in the world of detective fiction half the time. The other half the time, I write, books like The Big Leap and things that are, destined for the general public rather than for mystery readers.
I love it. And I love the variation that that gives people. And before we came on here, I was telling you how these conversations to me are really about, because you are so much in the public eye and you've been on many interviews and you do speeches and you do workshops and conferences, all kinds of things. People can research your professional career, but I want to bring people in just into a little bit of a taste of who Gay Hendricks is as a human being. And I noticed that you love your succulents and these mystery novels are really interesting. And you have 2 British short hair kitties. To give me a day in the life of Gay Hendricks.
Oh, thank you. Nobody's asked me that. Um, I wake up early, just organically. I don't set an alarm clock or anything, but I've always been an early riser. And I would say on the average, I wake up around 4:30 in the morning. This particular morning, I woke up around 4. Um, but anyway, I wake up early and my wife likes to sleep in. Katie usually likes to wake up between 7:30 and 8. So for the first few hours of the morning, that's kind of my writing time. And it happens to be when my creativity is, you know, going off like fireworks rather than later on in the day when I need a nap at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you know. And
When you're sorely underrated,
I,
nap somewhere.
I totally agree. I've become a big fan. In fact, I was joking to somebody the other day, and they were asking me what kind of, if I was writing any psychology, you know, self-help books at the moment. And I said, well, I was thinking about writing one called Nap Planning for the Elderly. Because I find the older I get, the more I value a nice little 20 or 30-minute lie down in the afternoon. I wake up early and I meditate. I've been doing TM meditation for 50. This is actually my 50th anniversary of doing a meditation practice every single day. And so I counted it up the other day. I had something like 18,000 hours of meditation put in. And so I do that because it really clears my mind. And I first learned it when I was in grad school, a starving grad student, frantically trying to keep ends meet and um, keep a roof over my head while I was getting my doctorate. And it really helped me clear and reorganize my mind. And I still do it here 50 years later. So anyway, in the morning, you'll find me meditating from, let's say 5 a.m. to about 5:20 or 5:30, something like that. And then I get on my computer and I write like mad for about 2 hours. I just crank. And it's my real, you know, key creative time. And sometimes I'm not working on a book. I do something else creative during that time, but I'm always really cranking on my creativity, usually from 5:30 to 7:30. Then, as you see on Instagram, I'm kind of a quirky breakfast eater. My very favorite breakfast is to saute up some king trumpet mushrooms or tree oyster mushrooms and have a couple of egg whites in it. I don't like egg yolks, but egg whites and a plate of sauteed mushrooms. That's my ecstasy breakfast, the one I hope they serve in heaven every day. And Katie is a master chef, but she only likes to make one meal a day. And so that works great for us because so we have a big lunch and then we don't eat dinner. And it's really great later on too for, you know, keeping my body in better shape because when I used to eat a big dinner, I would often wake up in the morning feeling a little muddy. And as you know, my morning times are sacred to me. So I found that when I stopped eating dinner, I wake up, boing, you know, I'm sharp as a tack in the morning. So that's been my practice for probably, gosh, 15 years now, probably. We've been eating that way and it really, really
Wow.
works well.
That's yeah, my partner and I were recently talking about the same thing of having an earlier, larger meal around 4 or so instead of dinner at 7 and moving it around. So that's pretty incredible to hear that it's been working so well for 15 years.
Yeah, well, I would suggest try out, you know, I spent some time in a Zen monastery way, way, way back, and their pattern is very similar to mine now. I kind of practice a monk's pattern because they get up and they meditate. They don't eat breakfast until after they meditate. And then they have a big lunch and then nothing again until the next morning. And it's not a huge breakfast, but it's a nice little breakfast of tea and something. I found that so agreeable to my mental functioning, particularly.
Well, it's essentially fasting. So you give your body time to kind of recover from having
Yeah,
a big meal.
yeah,
So I'm curious with the mushroom conversation, did you see Fantastic Fungi?
yes.
How did you like that?
I love anything to do with mushrooms. Yeah,
Do
the
you
fact that
forage
you
for
did
your
a
own?
movie about mushrooms and fungi just tickle me pink. Uh, Once I was speaking at the same conference as Andrew Weil, it was where I lived and in Colorado at the time. And he came over for dinner and we, of course, served mushrooms, knowing that that's his absolute favorite meal. And he was on his way to China. And I said, what are you going to be doing in China? And he says, oh, I'm going with a mushroom group. We're going to find some special mushrooms in the outback of China that nobody gets to eat, you know? Oh man, that's a man after my own heart.
Well, yeah, we love mushrooms too. And we live in upstate New York now, but we're both from California and we miss morel mushrooms.
Oh, that's right up there. I love morels, and lately I've been really loving king trumpets. And it's a great mushroom because they can be farmed and they're excellent king trumpet mushrooms farmed. I get them from Oregon Mushroom Company up there. I like them because if you slice them about a quarter of inch thick, they're like a little mushroom steak. And so
Oh,
that's my current favorite. I just went through 2 pounds of morels over the last couple of weeks myself, though. So that's probably my other favorite.
they're really good with morels are really good with kale and a little bit of amino acids.
Do you have a place where you can pick your own?
There might be here. It's not as popular as the West Coast. It's going and foraging is a popular activity there. Have you foraged?
No, I have never found a morel in the wild. That's one of my things, that's on what do you call it, a bucket list. I want to come across a clump of morels in the wild sometime before I exit this lifetime.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Oh, I forgot to tell you about the rest of my day. After Katie
Yes.
gets up, I one of my signature moments of the day, I happen to be very good at making coffee. And so I grind my own beans and I'm quite a ritualist about it. And one of my pleasure points of the day is when Katie gets up and I make her coffee. And so that's always a great moment for both of us when I sit down and she has her cup of coffee and I talk to her. And so then I usually start working on other things. Like I probably do sometimes like 10 to 20 hours of interviews a week on things like this. And this afternoon, for example, I will be doing a presentation to 500 or 600 coaches for an hour on Zoom. Then after that, I will just kind of hang out around here. We have a beautiful home. We've lived here for about 20 years. And so Katie is magic with gardening and things. And we have this beautiful property with ancient oak trees on it and 1,500 succulents and like living in a succulent paradise. And I love succulents. And so people come over to look at our succulents all the time. So if you're into succulents, you come by my place in Ojai, California sometime.
I would love to, and I love succulents. They're beautiful and they're easier to keep, so that makes me happy
Yeah,
having some of them because I don't kill them.
that's exactly it. Yeah. Well, we have a lot of those plants too, but Katie's a master gardener and she has a team of gardeners that she's always working with to keep the place tuned up. So yeah, it's really beautiful.
I'm gonna switch gears a little. I heard someone reference recently that 2022 has been a trilogy of going into a trilogy of 2020 and how we've had all these transformational things happening in our culture in the US. I'm curious with everything that you've learned over your lifetime thus far and where you are now in your life and with how much joy you experience and practice on a regular basis and gratitude. How do you relate to things that are happening in the news or things that are happening in our culture?
Well, probably like what I would consider a normal person would act, like the Uvalde thing just was to me heartbreaking. When I first saw it, I burst into tears and, couldn't stop crying probably for 45 minutes. So, I register things like that. I think we ought to encourage ourselves to feel in a very open, permeable, porous way whatever comes our way. I think a mistake that we make is trying to shut out things like that in the hope that that will contribute to our peace of mind. But I find that peace of mind comes from total participation with life, not through
Mhm.
trying to seal yourself off from different parts of life. I think open ourselves, let ourselves feel angry, sad, scared, blissful, be open to the whole realm of human experience because a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that life comes with two faucets, one called pleasure, and you turn that up, and one called pain, and you're supposed to keep that turned down. But the secret to happiness is that there is only one faucet, and it has awareness written on it. It's not good, bad, right, wrong. It just has awareness written on it. and you turn that up and learn to have more and more and more of it. And if you work it right, pretty soon you get to be living a very aware, conscious, purposeful life where you're not being run by old programming, but you're being run by what do I need now? What do my partner need? What do my business associates need? What do we all need to create together? So you're being run by a positive thrust in life rather than a thrust of avoidance or trying to seal out certain things.
I love that answer for so many reasons. I have a lot of people in my communities that identify as empaths and intuitive empaths. And I think a lot of times they're not really sure how much to let in and how much not to let in. So, what advice would you give to those communities of people?
I would say you've got the same issue as everybody else than the rest of us do, which is to let go of thinking there are some experiences in you that are good and some that are bad. Learn to open the faucet to become aware of everything that you are and to let yourself, you don't have to do it all in one day, but gradually expose yourself to more of what you've been resisting in life. Because if you've been trying to resist the pain and misery that you see on the news by shutting out the news, I can guarantee you, you'll become aware of the pain and misery in the world in some other way because things like this cannot be hid from. And so, yeah, I think it's really good to I don't think people should sit around and watch the news all day, but take a peek at it now and then just to keep yourself juiced up with what the rest of humanity is going through. Um, I'm not a big believer in trying to seal ourselves off from pain. We need to expose ourselves to whatever's there because I know a big secret, which is if you open yourself fully to your pain, your sorrow, your fear, your anger, you will then come to that place I call pure consciousness, which is the matrix that holds all of our experience in. And once you can feel that big open space of pure consciousness in yourself every day, you become, in a sense, immune from the things in life, not by hiding from them, but by participating with them.
Absolutely. As you know, I do quite a bit of conversations on Clubhouse, and something that I see a lot is people will. I see it consistently, and I'm overgeneralizing, but I see it consistently where people will step into gratitude, and then they can move into a spiritual bypassing, and they can move into good vibes only, and and I love good vibes, but it's the only part that I notice in people's language. And it's like they want to remove that other part, but then if I find that if you try to talk about the other, you can also get people to do the other thing where they only want to talk about the hard stuff. They only want to talk about their limitations and the trauma. And so as a leader and a creative leader at that, which I love that you are, and you have all these different parts of you, how do you help people in your trainings and in your workshops to balance both of those spaces when they tend to be on one extreme or the other?
In our work, we focus a lot on body intelligence, and that's a very helpful thing in this particular issue we're talking about because it's really an issue of working with your body so that you can accept and be with larger and larger amounts of positive energy. And all energy is positive if we can get our mind out of making everything good or bad, right or wrong, sick or healthy. If we can get our mind out of that kind of binary thinking and just take life as it comes and try to, instead of trying to always sort it in one pile or the other. And like, for example, with sadness, like I worked with a widow a while back who told me, she said, it's been a year now. And, in my religion, they say you're supposed to grieve for a year. And people tell me, they keep asking me, you ready to kind of get back out there in life? And she says, it may have been a year, but I still feel like I got punched in the chest, by a big fist, and I'm not ready. I'm not there yet. And so I I showed her some things, some ways she could begin to loosen up her body so she could begin to get some breath through that old grief and misery. And that was very helpful to her because she was such a powerful person. She wanted to kind of do it by herself. She was reluctant to reach out for help. But what happens is when when you get underneath that grief, you begin to realize that there are other feelings there. There's maybe some anger and there's maybe some fear down in your belly. And there are other things too, perhaps, but it's only by opening up and letting ourselves be more aware of these things that we can get through them and move to a place of clarity and ease inside.
Yes. And how much do you think being a writer, and especially writing the mystery novels, has helped you understand different parts of you and be able to translate that to other people?
Well, one of the things, let me go at that backwards. I created the mystery novels as a way of helping show people who read mystery novels a new way of being with their emotions and a new way. All the stuff that's in my psychology and spirituality books, I'm trying to smuggle that into all my mystery novels. I mean, that's the grand purpose here. But they also are fun to write because of that other part of me that, I love to read or even watch on TV British mysteries, kind of intricate British mysteries. Like give me a great John Le Carre book or a mystery. Um, I just love those kind of things. And so there's part of my mind that likes to think up stories and intricate details and things like that. So when I'm writing a mystery novel, I'm in total bliss for 2 hours every morning.
Oh, that's exciting. It makes me think of, do you know the author Martha Beck and life coach?
I've not met her, but I know who she is.
She wrote a book a couple years ago called Diana Herself. It's a novel about this woman that is doing like a survivalist show, and she goes out into the woods and she gets lost. And so there's this talking pig, and it's teaching her, it's an allegory, and it's teaching her all these personal growth things. And I thought that's such a beautiful way to share personal growth through story because it's easier to metabolize. And so many of us have all these parts of ourselves. I mean, you could look at like internal family systems or things like that. But at the end of the day, we kind of have all these characters inside of us.
Mhm. Yes, I always think we're governed by a committee.
Yeah. It's exactly, exactly. So I think it's really neat that you have this other part of you. And I was thinking about it also when I saw one of your other Instagram videos and you were talking about how you eat the center of pancakes and work your way out. But it's also kind of a metaphor for life. When you start with the good, juicy stuff, when you start with gratitude and you surrender to life and you're willing to open yourself to that, then the parts that maybe seemed not as appetizing seem perfectly fine because you started with the good juicy stuff.
Yeah, I especially do that with cinnamon rolls. I go straight to the middle of the cinnamon roll.
I think
I
next time
my
I have a
my
cinnamon roll, I might now.
my theory is that I wanna eat the middle first because if I should die from eating the cinnamon roll, I won't die wishing I'd eaten the middle of it, you know?
I love that. I love that. And so now I have a question that's personalized question for me. So I really love pronoia. And pronoia is the belief that the universe is conspiring in our favor. And I created an ontological equation for it in my world. And I had been running a group for about 8 months. And this is what I came up with. So I'm curious what you think. Because there's not really much on pronoia. It's only been around since like the 50s or 60s. And it's only recently entered mainstream. Pronoia to me is when it's like you have two dials. One is surrender and gratitude, and the other is fear and doubt. And when the fear and doubt becomes the headline, that's when you get into paranoia. But instead, pronoia is expanding that sphere of surrender and gratitude, not eliminating fear and doubt, but shrinking it. And then you subtract them. You take fear and doubt away from as much as you can from surrender and gratitude and expand that. Then you multiply that by possibility, which if you multiply that equation by possibility and you're in paranoia, you're going to get a whole lot of fear and a lot of survival mechanism. But if you multiply it by possibility when surrender and gratitude is larger, now you've got inspired action. Now you've got pronoia. Now you've got all these opportunities. What do you think?
I'm totally in harmony with you because actually, Rob Bresney, who wrote the book Pronoia, um, one of my favorite books, by the way, I probably got it right here behind me. I invited him to my house one time and we had a great discussion. But yes, I think that fear keeps us in a trance where we're always multiplying and turning into um, paranoia and painful possibility rather than positive possibility. And, around here we say fear is excitement without the breath. And once you begin to breathe through your fear enough, you awaken your excitement. Well, what's there is whatever you want to create. And to me, that's one of the most magical things in life is when people come out of their fear space and realize not only that they can create what they want based on creating conscious intention, but also once you open yourself to that possibility, the universe itself seems to start serving you up more possibilities.
Yes.
So it increases the positivity of the incoming, like that. I think I wrote about it in The Big Leap, where I was late for the plane. I was running from one end of the airport to the other in Dallas, and I had this huge realization. I saw myself in the mirror kind of huffing and puffing along, and I said, wait a minute. If my life ended in this moment, would this be the me I wanted to be celebrating? And I realized, no. My plane was late, so I had a good reason for it. But I noticed on the big board that my plane was already closing. The gate was closing. And so I I just kind of got centered into myself and I walked along just enjoying life. And I had exactly the same distance to walk, but I was just having the time of my life. And I got down to the podium and I noticed they had actually closed the door. And there was this gentleman having a flat out grown up temper tantrum in front of the podium. He was saying, my name is Humphrey T. Jones. And I'm going to sue you if you don't get me on that airplane. And he was just
Your
little
little big
laughing
someone.
man. And the poor clerk was just like getting battered. And so the guy stormed on up, shouting and waving. And I stepped up and I made a comment like, wow, quite a day, huh? And the clerk said, oh, you wouldn't believe that and everything. And then the most amazing thing happened. The door opened and one of the other flight attendants came hustling up and whispered in the ear of the clerk. And I heard the flight attendant say, we miscounted. There's a seat. And I saw the clerk look up the aisle at the guy waving his arms up there and then turned back to me with a smile and said, here, Dr. Hendricks, I hope you don't mind sitting in first class. And so to me, when you get in harmony with yourself and get in harmony with the universe, magic happens like that.
Yes, yes. And gratitude is such a great entry point for that. And really just anchoring into what you do appreciate in what is and accepting what is and being with that no matter where you are in the world. And that's why I love and where you are in life. And that's why I love these kinds of conversations because you've had a wildly successful career. And and with that kind of success comes a lot of responsibility, comes with a lot of expectations. It can anyway. But you're still this really jovial, down to earth person that is allowing me to interview for my small podcast. And I'm so
What?
incredibly
It's small.
and I'm so
Get me out of this as quickly as
proud of
possible.
Francis. I'm so incredibly grateful for being able to have this experience with you in this conversation. And on top of that, we've had a couple other conversations on Clubhouse. I was just having a conversation on Clubhouse the other day around, and I think this is deeply related to gratitude, the power of empathy and being able to have humility and stand with people in whatever they're in. But it's also being able to stand with people that are maybe in places you have yet to be
Mm,
and then you're excited to be in. So often I see people going, "Oh, I'd love to talk to this person or meet this person or do this." And I go, "Okay, how about instead of I would love to, of I will."
yeah. Yeah. Or I
I will.
consciously intend to.
Right. I don't know
Well,
when,
I
but
think
it will
you're
happen.
operating in your genius zone. What I've seen of you here and what I've heard when I did your thing on Clubhouse, you bring a lot of joy and clarity and love and intentionality to what you're doing. And that's always going to make it in the world, in my opinion.
Yes, yes. It's a conscious practice at the same time.
Definitely.
That that doesn't mean that I don't have challenging days, and that's why I asked you about the news and what you thought about those things. Because for me, I don't tend to read a lot of news, but it does affect people around me. So I need to know some of what's going on so that I can interact and engage. And I feel it all so deeply. And I like to make sure that I take care of myself enough
Mm.
that I show up with my cup full.
Yeah. And to do your kind of work and my kind of work, you really do need to live in a state of constant self renewal, because it comes through very quickly if you're just going through the motions in any way.
Well, I have one last question for you because I know you have other things in your day today, and I'm so grateful for you to have been here with me in conversation. What's your next big leap?
Mm. Well, I do want to finish these 5 mystery novels that are already finished, but I'm going through them all and tweaking them. And it's the tweaking that really makes the difference. Just making every little detail work and getting the verbs right and everything. So that's going to be my summer. Um, and then my next big leap is this year I am going to publish my memoir, which is a whole bunch of stories that you'd probably like to read.
I would love to.
Well, in this, it's got everything from big spiritual enlightenment experiences to trying to avoid tigers on the border of India and Nepal and riding my bike to Mount Everest and things like that. So it's got little experiences and big experiences and lots of fun and laughter and hopefully a few tears too, people tell me. So that'll be later on this year.
Oh, that's exciting, Gay. I can't wait till it comes out, and I can't wait to interview you when it does so we can talk about the stories in it.
Good. Nice talking to you. And thanks again for inviting me to come by for a chat.
Thank you so much, Gay. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Christina Crooks Show. If you'd like to learn more about our guest, you can explore the show notes, and there should be information about them in there. If you'd like to reach out to me personally, you can go to my website, ChristinaCrooks.com, and learn about different offerings we currently have, or set up a call with me personally. I hope that you take away some insights and some new inspirations, some new zest for life. And I hope, above all, you have a really great day.